Hey guys, so today we're gonna talk with Adriana Prat. She is the curator and one of the artists for the collective i3C artists. Yes, I'm looking at my notes. Inspiring change for the climate crisis artists. So Adrienne was one of the artists, if I'm not mistaken, I interviewed for the first season of the podcast. And she mentioned briefly the collective, but it has grown exponentially since then. So it's really good to talk with her. She shares very good advice and she talks about the ins and outs of the collective and what they are doing. I'm gonna leave the links so you can see their website and stuff like that. So stay tuned. It's gonna be a very interesting conversation. Thank you so much for being here. It's really a pleasure to have you again, and especially talking about your collective and being part of this new section of the magazine, Green+Just. So I just want you to start talking a bit about the collective. How did it start?
Oh, well, thank you so much, first of all, Joanna, for having me and the group, the i3C group again. It is amazing. I'm so, grateful and also
Thank
proud
you.
of what you do with for the environmental justice. So the seed of the group, of the i3C artist group, came to life, I would say, in 2019. It was pretty much, and again, in a very organic way. It's the way that I do a lot of things in my life. So after years of being a part-time artist, I had recently become a full-time artist, and I went on a residency in Iceland, which I purposely chose Iceland because of their, strong commitment to the
Yeah.
environment, like sustainable, energy sources, etc. So, but anyway, I mean, that's when I had the magic moment in which I aligned my art, which before was really focused more in my personal yet universal dilemmas regarding identity and my concerns for the environment. So, because of the vastness of the landscape, the power of nature that is impossible not to feel in Iceland, and also, as I said, because of the aspects that the country has regarding environment, but also in Iceland, Joanna, I felt the vulnerability of nature,
Yeah, imagine.
like I never felt before. So very quickly, I had this insight, this aha moment in which I said, what am I doing, thinking about other things? What am I doing being inspired on my own reality when in fact I have to fight for the environment? So that's when my inspiration became fully focused in the human-made crisis, the causes, pollution, the exploitation of the land and the oceans, and all the devastating manifestations that are very clear, closer to all
Yeah.
local and global communities, including the climate injustice. So after coming back to the US, first of all, I had a talk with a few of my artist friends who are also concerned, aware, and are concerned about the climate crisis, and we we were very passionate, like, okay, let's do a show to inspire change for the climate crisis in our very humble mission. And so we engaged with other artists who were also concerned about different aspects of the climate crisis, including some that were working with with sustainable art practices, like Michelle, that you're going to interview later on. But anyway, after proposing the show to different venues, we were able to exhibit a 5-person show in the Multicultural Arts Center here in Cambridge, in Boston, where we reside. So we did that during the pandemic, unfortunately. That was a pity, but anyway, the show is still even on virtually. But for us, it was important also, Joanna, to have a panel of climate experts and advocates along with exhibits, because from the get-go, from the beginning of this, and this is the germ, the germ of the group, but
Yeah.
it was important not only to show the art, to speak about art, and to have art inspired change, but also have an opportunity to offer a safe space in which we could engage with the audience, speak about feelings and all sort of things about the climate, and also thoughts about the crisis, and even offer some practical solutions. So I put together the proposal, and the panel was kind of the point person from an organizational aspect.
Yeah.
And after that show, I felt so inspired that this didn't have to finish with only one show. So it was only natural that I got engaged in speaking with other, kindred souls who were also doing, trying to, to do their own from the artistic perspective, and that's how I got engaged with, bringing more people, and I became the curator and brought more people, and we are now 22 artists. And I'm proud to say that we even have a wait list of very talented and very committed artists in the group. So that's basically the story of our group in a nutshell.
So you are also an artist within the group?
Yes, within the group. The first time that we showed 22 people, though, I was asked to, because I was a curator of the exhibit, the people, the venue asked me not to participate, which I very quickly, said, no problem. My answer was, it's not about me, it's about the mission.
Yeah.
So, but in general, I'm showing, and
That's it. Yeah, you are one of the artists, not only the curator. So how do you?
Exactly.
So you are 22 artists, with you included. So how do you manage? How do you come together and plan exhibitions, events, and all of that?
Yeah, well, it is a bit challenging. I mean, I have to say that it is. I mean, in the beginning, there was a lot about me, putting together the proposals, sending it to spaces, to venues,
Yeah.
and I'm being, I'm waiting, and most of the time I got a yes, and then it was like, oh, let's do this and let's do that and let's do the other one. So in the beginning, it was interesting because it was me more like, oh, I hope that this venue says yes, I hope. And then a year after, I have to say, I'm more like, oh, I have to say no because it's like we have way too many. And but again, I mean, in the beginning, I have been the curator and I have been more the decision maker. However, we have teams or committees within the i3C. So we have like the programming and the educational committee. We have the logistics, installation that is more hands-on in the exhibits. We have a finance team. And we have, of course, marketing, social media, newsletter, etc. Like, the media committees. So I normally call meetings. I participate in all of those all the committees, and I seek their advice, at different times in an ad hoc basis. Many of the artists are local, but some are not. So we have most of our, discussions happen virtually whenever we need to, and sometimes we meet, of course, in receptions, closing or openings, etc. But that's how we operate. I don't know if you have any specific, but anyway, the different meetings, the different committees are very essential for different aspects of whatever we do. For example, the programming committee is essential, when we are in a venue, we have kind of like a catalog of offerings of type of events, and then depending on the venue, length, availability, accessibility, or availability of the artist, etc. We do virtual or in-person workshops or events, let's say.
Okay, so you don't only do exhibitions, you have other initiatives that go along with the exhibition. Can you talk a bit about that?
Oh yeah. We have a list of things, like, I don't know. Again, I like to call it catalog because I like to. Maybe it's because of my science. and the way I used to operate when I used to work in biotech. You want to be ready. You don't want to be every time reinventing the wheel, so to speak. So, we offer workshops. We offer talks with climate or environmental experts. For example, we recently had a wonderful conversation with a climate scientist, Rachel Leaker, from the Union of Concerned Scientists. And if it's not that type of expert, we have others in our network. We have talks on relevant issues like recycling or like working with discarded material, which is, as you know, a very important topic for me. Like Julia Stern, one of our i3C artists who is currently in Italy, she gave a beautiful conversation or a virtual, talk about that. And also some of us, including Rebecca, Cedric, Jeffrey, Carol, Michelle, and I don't want to forget whoever was there, but we had at the Boston Center for the Art, we had an in-person conversation panel
That's good.
as part of the solo exhibit of Cedric, curated by Carol Moses, who is also one of our artists. So we also have artist talk, in which we talk about our artistic processes or artistic inspirations, etc. We also had an initiative recently of gifting young native plants to the gallery visitors. That was something that was spearheaded by Carol also. So we do different things. And again, because we are multidisciplinary and diverse in backgrounds and experiences, we have a panoply of concepts, techniques, approaches to art, and ideas regarding the environment, climate crisis. So for us in our exhibits, it's very important to have each artist speaks or describe how the work relates to the mission. And we also, when it's if feasible in the venues, we offer videos from reputable organizations that are more directed to climate crisis or climate justice or pollution or plastic, and our website that is evolving, right? But we have a list of organizations that we support in various ways, like sometimes financially, or some of us, for example, Rebecca and Michaela Nielsen, sorry, they're both very active with Surfrider Massachusetts, and Surfrider Massachusetts is very active in trying to, bring accountability to the representatives about single-use plastics, bills, etc. So we are extremely active, I would say, individually and as a group. One thing that we would like to do, that we planned but we couldn't implement yet, is school visits.
Okay.
Because of logistics, sometimes people said yes, but by the end of the show, of the exhibit, then there are a number of logistics, bureaucratic, if you will, aspects or things that, we cannot accomplish. But anyway, we try to be adaptable, and we try to not be, one thing. Because I'm a believer that the solutions for climate have to come from a lot of different ideas, and they are gray area. I always feel that there is nothing black and white, about the solutions. That we need to be very creative also with the solutions.
So this sorry to interrupt you. So these events, just because it's a lot of stuff, and I'm trying to compartmentalize everything.
I know.
In terms of exhibition, so during an exhibition that goes, let's say, for a month, you have different events during that month, or just during the beginning of the exhibition, do you have these talks or conferences with people, or is there different events during center months that don't have or are not connected with the exhibitions?
Well, again, we have evolved. So we are evolving to be more proactive, hopefully. So now we have more like, regular meetings, every 2 months, maybe, with the programming teams, etc. Before, in the beginning, we were a bit more reactive, like, oh, we have this exhibit, we need to come up with something. So now we are shifting into being more strategic, if you will. But again, it depends. As I said, typically we have a reception, an opening reception that is driven sometimes by the availability of the venue, right? And that's more typical, like, an opening reception in which we also are trying to create awareness for aspects, for example, the lack of use of plastic. Sometimes, it's typical in a vernissage, in an opening or closing reception, to have like wine, cheese, or things like that, right? So we are a bit specific about, or a lot specific about, like, let's try to avoid plastic, or let's try to only use compostable, or I'd rather not have food, why have food or drinks if we don't need to, and make it only about the art and the artists. So those are some of the like the events. Then of course we have workshops, and we try to offer workshops that are related to the use of discarding materials. And for example, we have one workshop that is called Cardboards and Coyotes, that is making coyotes out of cardboard from cereal or from packaging, and it's great for families. We had that at the Belmont Gallery of Art last, probably November, and it was amazing. A few of the families were a teacher, like, some of the parents were teachers, and they were like, oh my god, I think school. So those are the type of things that hopefully we will be able to offer in schools. We will have in Hopkinton Center for the Art next year, Rebecca will offer chime, making chimes with discarding materials. At the next exhibit in September, we are trying also to create a workshop about mending workshop.
Yep.
Because in the Piano Craft Gallery, in September, this is going to be co-curated with Jeffrey Nolan and Michaela Morris. So I'm very excited. So far I've been the curator, and I had many times the help of some of the artists that were my assistant. But now we are co-curating, and hopefully we will be doing that more and more. And so I guess I lost track of what I wanted to say there. But the idea is that in the piano we will have sub-themes for sure. For example, we have already native plants. Like a couple of the artists are bringing native plant awareness, and also we have the fast fashion. So fast fashion will be something that we will talk. And we will also do this workshop of mending garments.
So the exhibitions in specific do have themes. It's not only about climate change. They can have themes and workshops that are focused, or talks that are focused on a specific.
Well, so far they have been pretty general. They have been, they have been about inspired climate with different aspects, like the sub themes or the sub categories, if you will, have been more. There are artists who are using, reclaimed materials. There are artists who are photographing areas that are suffering from climate crisis right now, or metaphors for climate crisis, or native plants. And then there are others who are more poetic. Like I am always more in the being inspired and creating topographies that resemble, places that are in the natural world, in the ocean or in the land, but they are more affected, by whatever is happening.
Okay.
But in the future, I'd say yes, we will have more sub themes. That's something that I have spoken with some of the artists too. Okay. Again, we're evolving. We're evolving.
Yeah, you started, I believe, a year ago. I assume that there is a lot of things that is still need to be fine-tuned and changed as time flies and goes.
Exactly.
So do you have any success stories or positive outcomes that you have seen from the work of the collective, how the audience responded, how kids responded to the things you are doing?
Well, we are a very young group, right? But the good thing is that I feel that people and venues mostly are recognizing our efforts.
That's good.
So
Good to hear.
we have, I have probably a isolated success story in the sense of, for example, with youth, in the sense that we have brought children, family, and they are very engaged. I mean, I remember one of this grandchild of one of the artists who was very engaged with one of my paintings that had kind of concentric, if you will, maps showing how the coastal lands are going to evolve, and basically they are going to reduce, like islands are going to disappear, right? And I love to see how he got, fully, he got the idea, and he was a young child. So those type of things are great. So we want to see more of those in, with the school visits, right? And when I speak about school visits, is from and to, right? Hopefully people visiting our schools, students visiting our exhibits, but also groups of the artists going and speaking about, our mission. Now, what I could say about the venues are recognizing our efforts. People are recognizing our efforts. We are kind of like I don't want to say gold standard, but at least, it's like there is not a single week in which I'm not approached by an artist who says, "Oh my God, I didn't know about your group, but now it's like, oh, I want to hear more." Either they want to engage in conversations with our artists, or they want to, as I said, belong in the group. Venues are recognizing us, and recently, for example, we were approached when I was going to actually take a break for exhibit because we had way too many. We were approached by the Cambridge Art Association, and they invited us to inaugurate, to debut their new gallery in association with Biomed Realty for Earth Month, for
That's
Earth
good.
Day,
Yeah.
or March. And like really literally this past month, I was also approached by another organization, Lab Central is a, like work bar. I don't know if you have an equivalent in the EU, but these are places that offer the full gamut of lab equipment and lab space
Okay.
to startups. Like when startups,
Need a space to start. Yeah.
it's very costly, right, to have lab space and equipment. So then you rent a space, and this is amazing in the ecosystem. The biotech ecosystem of Cambridge. Lab Central is really the biggest, and we are going to be showing in September in they have two gallery spaces, and I decided to open it to other artists. See, in the spirit of also, like, I cannot bring them today as members, but now we will have two group shows with i3C artists and guest artists in this space. So it is great. And I like this idea also of bringing it to other artists who are very interested in our group. So it gives us a chance for them to know whether they like us, and for us to also have them belong in our community, because I think creating community is the most important thing, right? To start this grassroots. Yeah.
And in terms of the artist, have you seen, because joining a collective can be sometimes very stressful for an artist or very good for them, because they have a lot of outcomes coming about their arts, and that can be very good for their artist career. So what have you seen when you look at the group and when they started and where they are now, any positive outcomes?
Well, for sure. Again, the artists are from the get-go. Some were very established. Some were, I would say most of the artists were already very successful at showing in different places. And some were more or less, engaged in for example, working with organizations, that are, aligned with our mission. So I've seen growth definitely in people. I have grown. For example, as an artist, I've been so inspired by the artists who are doing work with, repurposed material, that I'm making, let's say, one line of my work right now is more about purely working on reclaimed materials, because I've been painting on upcycle or whatever repurpose, supports. But right now I'm also interested in not painting, but doing work with that. So some people, again, because they have, we had 5 shows last year in the past, if you count from June to June.
Yeah.
Right? 5 shows, kind of 15 events, like, between workshops, opening, closing, the talks, things of the sort. So we had a lot happening. So I think that some probably felt it's a lot because they felt like, oh my God, how can I catch up? But again, I'm not extremely, at this point, whatever, punitive in a way. Like, if somebody cannot volunteer, I'm not strict. If somebody couldn't volunteer because of health issues or family issues, it's fine. But they always find a way to continue, to volunteer, to give, for example, to pay for something, or to come and do and promote, etc. So I've seen growth, definitely. I hope that, in your conversations with them, you have also you hear that. But it has been great. The community, this again, the creating community and having more conversations, and I'm feeling more empowered to speak about this, with the venues, with the corporations. It's very good.
Yeah.
It's very good.
So what advice would you give an artist that is trying to use their creative talents to talk about social and ecological justice?
Well, I would say you have to do it. The advice is that you have to do it. You have to not be afraid. I mean, because in my own experience, right? I feel I follow my instincts. Sometimes I was very afraid. I want to say, I mean, it's my podcast or previous podcasts, or maybe in my blogs, I speak about, I grew up in a military dictatorship, afraid to speak up. So I did a lot of work to, to be vocal about things that I feel very strongly about. So, but we cannot be afraid. Fear is not an option when what is at stake is so important. It's critical, right? The need for awareness and action. So follow your instinct and do it. Join others with the same authentic, desire to bring change for the world, right? And don't be aware of opportunistic individuals and organizations. So really follow your core, your gut, on the people that you will engage with. And you have to find your own artistic voice and way to speak about what you see and what you see happening in the world, right? In terms of the environmental and the climate crisis at the local and global level, and also the associated social inequality, right, and injustice. So yeah, that's really it. And if you want, join us, talk to me, and yeah, I can always give advice. And also maybe one day, I don't rule out this. I want the group to be global, to continue being global. If anything, I put a stop to the membership because, growth, the growing pains, right? We have to, I don't like to, add people just because, without giving them an opportunity to participate, and also have an opportunities to exhibit, etc. And also give myself, a breather in how things are, grow. In science, we don't change too many variables at the same time. It's like, so that's why I think it's important, for the chemistry of the group, for the impact of the group, we have to grow in a way that is
sustainable.
Sustainable. Exactly. It's sustainability. Yes. That's what
So
it is.
you are totally open. So the membership is closed. But if an artist, a young artist, or an established artist wants to contact you for advice or to know more about the collective or know where you have exhibitions or talks, you are totally open to that.
Exactly. And see, what we're doing right now is we are, for example, for this the next one that we will do in September, the Piano Craft Gallery that I'm co-curating, right, with two other artists. We put together like a call, like a formal call, like, you know, we change a bit the statement, we speak, you know, and we give more strict deadlines and things like that, so to make it also easier for us who are organizing, right, the exhibit. Of course, being very friendly, because, you know, and we even open it to some of the artists who are interested in joining the group but cannot now because of the membership being put on hold. But see, I don't, maybe in the future, you know, this will be more, we will have more artists, and then we will go with calls, so then everybody will have an opportunity to regulate their own
Yeah.
you know, their own participation, and also we have an opportunity to also regulate that, and so having a bigger, you know, because again, we are not a non-profit. This is something that is important. We are not a non-profit. Being a non-profit in the US is a bit, you know, it's a complicated process. It's not impossible, but it's a complicated process that takes time. And there are also I hate to say that sometimes we need money, right? This is about,
It's
you know,
normal.
to
It's an
hire
aspect. Yeah.
people. It's an aspect of, for us to be, you know, sustainable, right, to pay the websites or whatever. So we are now at the stage in which we are going to be doing more of that, like maybe asking for fiscal sponsorships, things like that, so to be able to do, you know, to handle our financial aspects very well and very transparent, you know, etc. And that would give us, if we get grants and, you know, donations, then we would be able to be bigger, right, and to handle things in a different way, and to engage with the community, which is the most important, in a way that, you know, is sustainable also. Yeah.
So that's going to be a next step for growth, is being able to ask for grants by the government or any other things like that, or being a non-profit would be a next step.
Hopefully, yes. And again, because we will do it in the beginning with people who are internal, right? It has to be, you know, hopefully it will be somebody that joins, or one of the artists already that says, oh, I can do that. And then, you know, that would cover for the volunteering time that, you know, we should all be giving. Right now we are giving time in different aspects, right? Like in the committees, in the installation, in the co-curating or the curating or assisting, or etc. Or some people are donating all the native plants, or for example, we're planning to have a virtual gallery that is more 3D, and one of the artists is volunteering, you know, is giving that and donating, I guess is the word, right, some of the cost. So we want to do it in a different way, more like, you know, an organization that is more mature. So that would be the next.
So thank you.
Yeah, it's a pleasure. It's always a pleasure.
I know this one is a shorter conversation than the usual.
I know. Yeah.